Right now, from KTAB News, your local election headquarters, this is Big Country Politics.
Thanks so much for being here for Big Country Politics. I'm Travis Reese, and we do start our broadcast with President Trump's visit to West Texas. The president traveling to the Permian Basin to talk oil. KTAB's Jessica Rank and photographer Isaiah Guerra were in Midland with the president.
Day out here in Midland, Odessa. President Trump making his way to the Permian Basin today to discuss, well, what else is this part of West Texas known for? It's the oil and energy industry. Now, after a luncheon in downtown Odessa, President Trump made his way here to the Double Eagle Energy Rig out here in Midland. I'm going to have Isaiah pan kind of in so y'all can get a better look at that. And of course, the president speaking to somewhat of a large crowd today, saying the main message is to keep energy jobs in America. And to do that, he signed 4 permits, which will grant the approval of an additional pipeline infrastructure near the border.
On behalf of every American energy worker, I will now sign these very important permits that your governor and your senators have been after me for a long time to sign. And they've been after a lot of other presidents to sign them, but they never were able to get it done. But we got it done. And we got it done for a great state called Texas. Thank you very much, everybody.
Everything requires oil and gas to either run or to be made of, to be transported, to be assembled. It's just amazing the amount of things that oil and gas does.
Now, we all know that this industry has taken quite a hit during the pandemic because with fewer cars on the road, that also means fewer people needing gas. But President Trump does say that we are on the road to recovery, and he says that we can do it in a way that also cuts down on pollution. But at the end of the president's speech, the message was clear, and that's he wants to keep those energy jobs here in the U.S. That's the very latest from out here in Midland, Odessa. We're going to go ahead and send it on back to you guys at the desk.
All right, KTAB's Wes Rappaport also in the Permian Basin for the trip by Mr. Trump and his message for energy workers. Wes has more team coverage.
And as long as I'm your president, we will never let anyone put American energy out of business.
President Trump back in Texas to tout his energy policy, like regulation rollbacks and expansion of export opportunities. He granted 4 pipeline permits, including one he says will send Texas crude oil to Mexico.
For the first time in nearly 70 years, we have become a net energy exporter.
In an exclusive interview with Nexstar Media Group, Trump says this Texas trip has a celebratory feel as the energy industry slowly recovers from the effects of the pandemic.
We're here really almost celebrating in a sense, and a lot of people are going to be hired back. Ultimately, they'll all be hired back plus.
Justin Slaughter is one of those affected by the energy downturn. He was laid off from his oil job in March, but found a new gig. He's hopeful the Trump administration can help this hurting industry.
So I really do believe that he's done a pretty good job of committing to our industry. I think probably better than presidents in the past. With that said, that doesn't change the issues we're dealing with every day in the Permian Basin, and that doesn't change that the families losing their jobs.
Slaughter says there's more work to do, and so do Texas Democrats, who are trying to shift the conversation to what they say are shortcomings from Republican leadership on the response to COVID-19.
They're more concerned about trying to cover up their failures than they are about covering up their faces with a mask.
On the coronavirus, Trump says there could be a vaccine by the end of the year or sooner.
I would certainly take it. Yeah, it's going to be safe, and it seems to be, it looks like it's going to be very effective.
All right, thanks, Wes. And while in Midland, the president also announcing that exports for American liquefied natural gas will be allowed through 2050. All right, now to our eye on Abilene. Abilene Mayor Anthony Williams testing positive for COVID-19 this last week. He's now in self-quarantine, and only KTAB News spoke with the mayor.
I will be one of those numbers.
Mayor Anthony Williams says it all started after a local tour of a nonprofit facility last week.
And then I get a phone call from the executive director on Monday evening that said the time that I was there that a COVID-19 positive was there. He wanted me to know.
After getting notified, he says he wasted no time getting tested Tuesday morning.
Got the results back late last night that I was indeed positive.
But he wasn't done, he says, spending the rest of his Tuesday contacting those he had been in contact with as he racked his brain on his non-asymptomatic symptoms. Here's his timeline of finding out. Last Thursday, the mayor toured a nonprofit facility. This Monday, he got a call from the facility letting him know he might have been in contact with a positive case. The mayor tested the following day, Tuesday morning, and received the positive result that night.
I don't have a temperature. I don't have any GI issues, no cough, no headache. I don't have anything at all. In fact, if I wasn't contacted, I wouldn't even have the test taken.
The CDC reminding people anyone within 6 feet of someone positive for more than 15 minutes is susceptible to testing positive.
I mean, I had a mask on almost all the time. I led a devotion where I took the mask off. And again, I was there less than 30 minutes.
With over 1,000 Abilenians tested positive, he says CDC estimates there are over 10,000 of our neighbors who were affected so far.
First of all, COVID-19 does not discriminate. Anybody can get it, and it's going to be with us, and we have to learn how to be with it.
In Abilene, with coverage you can count on, Kevin Clack, KTAB News.
All right, the mayor will be out of quarantine by the next city council meeting on August 13th. All right, continuing our coverage, city manager Robert Hanna says the city's business will continue as usual, but the virus can reach anyone.
You know, one, he's asymptomatic, so I'm happy to hear that, and it's bound to happen. I think a lot of us are going to end up getting COVID-19 despite everyone's best efforts not to, and the good news is that for the vast majority of us, it's a relatively benign thing.
All right, moving now to our eye on Washington. Attorney General William Barr spending several hours in the hot seat in front of the House Judiciary Committee this last week. The hearing featuring plenty of partisan attacks with both sides echoing the talking points from the two presidential campaigns. Skylar Henry has more details from Capitol Hill.
Attorney General William Barr delivered a full-throated defense of federal officers' response to protesters in Portland.
Since when is it okay to try to burn down a federal court? Is that okay? Is that okay now? No, the U.S. Marshals have a duty to stop that and defend the courthouse, and that's what we are doing in Portland.
Democrats accused Barr of using federal officers to help the president look tough on crime.
The president wants footage for his campaign ads, and you appear to be serving it up to him as ordered. In most of these cities, the protests had begun to wind down before you marched in and confronted the protesters.
George Floyd's death under the knee of a police officer sparked the protests, but the nation's top law enforcement officer says police are not the problem.
I don't agree that there's systemic racism in the police department.
Specifically,
generally in this country.
You seem to have a difficult time understanding systemic racism and institutional racism.
President Trump has made law and order a central part of his re-election campaign, and Attorney General Barr and House Republicans defended the president's policies and his talking points.
The sad part was it'd been nice if Democrats actually let him answer more questions because he knocked it out of the park.
I have not seen an attorney general that really stands in the gap to help the most vulnerable people.
The hearing was often contentious.
Mr. Attorney General, you did answer the question.
No, you said under penalty of perjury. I'm going to answer the damn question. Okay?
You said.
With the two sides even fighting over a break.
Could we take a 5-minute break, Mr. Chairman?
No, we are almost finished.
You're classic.
Well, okay. Yeah.
Barr spent nearly 5 hours testifying. Skylar Henry, CBS News, Capitol Hill.
All right, we're just getting started here on BCP. Still to come, it's back to school time, or is it? Complete coverage from across the big country. We're back in just 2 minutes.
Big Country Politics on KTAB continues.
And welcome back. Abilene ISD Superintendent Dr. David Young says he plans on recommending to the school board that it push back the first day of school. Dan Booth tells us how moving the start date will help teachers, staff, students, and parents. This is in our Eye on Education.
Our reason for doing that is really just logistical processing.
Dr. Young says moving the first day of school from August 20th to August 24th could give faculty, staff, and students a couple of extra days to get used to the new safety protocol.
Teachers are going to have more to do getting ready for school when they come back on August 12th than they ever have before.
On Wednesday, Abilene ISD released a video providing insight into the safety protocols in place for this school year, like sanitizing stations in every classroom, requiring everyone to wear masks, screening students, faculty, and staff daily, and having teachers switch classrooms instead of students.
If your student normally rides the bus and you do have a way that you can get them to school, we would ask you to do that, at least for the time being, just because it would help us reduce the numbers of students on the buses.
Dr. Young says Abilene ISD is expecting this to be a year full of starting and stopping to mitigate the spread of the virus if a positive case is detected.
It's not a question of what if we have a positive on campus from a student or a staff member. I mean, it's when. We know that that's going to happen.
Before the start of the school year, parents are being asked to fill out a survey to tell AISD if their children will be learning in person or remotely.
A key thing that we've got to know is what percentage of our students will be in person and what percentage of our students will be remote.
For BigCountryHomepage.com, I'm Dan Booth.
And according to Dr. Young, the ISD superintendent, students who are learning remotely will still be able to participate in extracurricular activities in person. Now you can find the link to the Back to School survey on our website, BigCountryHomepage.com. All right, continuing coverage, we move now to Wiley ISD. Wiley sharing its plans for reopening. Mercedes Hernandez spoke with the district superintendent, Mr. Joey Light, to find out what's changing for schools amid the pandemic.
Things are changing so fast. There were several items that changed yesterday.
Several pages of plans outlined what the fall semester at Wiley ISD will look like for students going back on campus and for those being educated online. Students 4th grade and up will have to come to class with one important accessory.
In 4th and above, we will have masks on. We will be using hand sanitizer, and we will screen folks and ask them to do a lot of self-screening.
For elementary classes with more than one teacher, the students won't rotate rooms. Instead, the teachers will transition from one class to another, limiting the contamination of desks by multiple students.
They would have less touch points and less opportunities to pick something up.
While desks may not be 6 feet apart in classrooms,
because we don't have much room,
classrooms will be disinfected every day, but the price of extended cleaning measures and online learning infrastructure comes at a cost.
At one point, we looked at $42,000. I think that may have been in one campus. You know, we're looking at camera costs, speaker costs, laptop costs.
85% of Wiley families say their child will return for in-person instruction. While the district is still working out some exact details like when those students will be dropped off or picked up, Superintendent Light says they're doing their best to keep each child safe.
You know, we really do feel like there are a lot of benefits to being at school.
In Abilene, with coverage you can count on, Mercedes Hernandez, KTAB News.
All right, students receiving education online will be required to log in every school day of the week, and families who need a computer or laptop may rent one from the district. We also have Wiley's full comprehensive plan on our website. That's BigCountryHomepage.com. All right, next, another question many of you parents may be asking, that's if their computer is ready to handle a school year. I'm Monica Meek is digging deeper and talking to tech experts about what you can do.
As some families are getting ready to buy laptops or tablets for their students to do online learning, Your Way computer tech company owner Andrew Way says you may not need to buy new.
A lot of times we're running out and buying a new device. You need someone to look at the computer and evaluate it.
But if you choose to, consider adding extra memory space.
Cheap as it is, I would just try to go with the maximum your hardware will allow.
AISD will be offering online or in-person learning, and for those e-learners,
one of the things that we are asking our families to do is to, if they have the means, to be able to provide their own remote learning functional device and functional Wi-Fi.
And when choosing the right option for your student, if you're considering buying a Mac, Andrew Way debunks the myth that Mac laptops don't get viruses.
Macs make up a smaller percent than actually Windows computers, PCs, and so that inherently makes them less susceptible because they're not as big a target.
He says that they're less likely to, but it's still possible.
Windows computers come with Defender software that's already on it.
And for those who can't provide their own laptop, the school has a solution.
We certainly will work with our families of students who are on free and reduced lunch to ensure that they also have a device, and we'll be contacting them for those students who do select remote learning.
AISD has roughly 9,300 Chromebooks for students and are in the process of trying to get an additional 3,000 more. In Abilene with coverage you can count on, Monica Meek, KTAB News.
Still to come here on Big Country Politics, we take a look at the plan for Abilene Christian University. Plus, talk to a teacher about all the changes. We're back in 2 minutes.
Big Country Politics on KTAB continues.
All right, the school year, as we've been talking about, is right upon us, and the semester at Abilene Christian University will look very different from years past. Mercedes Hernandez is here again and is speaking to Dr. Schubert, the university's president, and she continues our Eye on Education.
It'll feel like it's just around the corner.
With move-in day just weeks away, ACU President Dr. Phil Schubert says the university is spreading out students in classrooms and is requiring face coverings on campus.
And so all of our students there'll be 6 feet of distance between them, which has required significantly greater use of larger spaces around our campus.
Class schedules will also be adjusted to accommodate cleanings between lectures.
We're changing the times in order to create 20 to 25 minutes between each class session so that all of the classrooms can be cleaned and disinfected.
Dr. Schubert says ACU has also secured 5,000 PCR COVID-19 testing kits for faculty, staff, and students to use through its medical clinic, with the potential to get more if needed.
We might increase that order over the next few weeks to 10,000 just to ensure that we have sufficient tests on hand.
The school is also developing separate housing off campus to quarantine positive students. However, students going home for quarantine would be the college's first choice.
Students who have other situations where returning home is not an option, not a good option, we're going to provide a campus option for them.
The pandemic has caused an interesting turn in enrollment. Freshman enrollment is slightly down, but retention of upperclassmen is not.
That's encouraging. We had planned and put in place plans to allow the university to respond to a much more significant decline in our student body.
Some details for student life, like social club activities, are still being hashed out, but Dr. Schubert says those details will soon be shared with students. For now, the Wildcats are prepping to go back on campus, but as with most things during the COVID-19 pandemic,
all of the plans, as well crafted as they may be, need to have an inherent degree of flexibility.
In Abilene, with coverage you can count on, Mercedes Hernandez, KTAB News.
And Dr. Schubert says most classes will be ready to move online at a moment's notice. Students also not returning to campus after Thanksgiving this next year. All right, so we're going to get back to Big Country Politics right now and back to elementary school. All the changes also affecting our teachers. And as KTAB's Jessica Rank shows us, teachers are now getting ready.
Here we go. We've all been missing the sounds of the school year.
All right, come on, let's load up.
But before long, some students will be out of their houses and back on the bus. Over at Wiley East Elementary, Robin Whitmire,
for our peace of mind, just prepare the way that we always have,
is getting ready to welcome in her new class of kindergartners.
We are so excited to have the kids back.
But this year, like we all expected, is going to come with a few changes.
I think that I have moved things around enough to where we will be able to social distance.
And it all starts with the placement of these little learners.
Usually we have our tables in groups of 6 and they're spread out around the room. So I have separated them so that I can have 2 or 3 at each table.
And luckily for Whitmire, washing hands and keeping things clean has always been a part of her curriculum.
We always talk about Mr. German, and we've talked about, it's kind of a game for them of washing their hands as good as they possibly can so that Mr. German doesn't stay on it.
And the main goal, keeping things fun.
I don't want them to come in and be scared of anything.
While keeping everyone safe.
Actually having them back in here, I think that's one of the most important things, is just to have that relationship with the students. This is our class family wall. I think it's going to be really special for us, but it's also going to be really good for those kids.
In Abilene, with coverage you can count on, Jessica Rank, KTAB News.
All right, thanks, Jessica. We're going to be right back right here on Big Country Politics.
Big Country Politics on KTAB continues.
Thanks for staying with us. Moving now to those who may not yet be old enough for school. We're talking about those in daycare, and those are seeing a lot of changes and struggles. Monica Meek has that story.
When COVID-19 shut down colleges in March, daycares in Abilene lost a chunk of their employees.
Staff member told me, hey, so whatever is going on right now, our colleges are closing and we're all going home.
Candace Barber from the Alliance of Women and Children says things are still in limbo nearly 5 months later.
Well, the different piece for us was, our staff weren't sure if school was opening as far as our college students, which is the biggest base for what we do. So it changed the dynamics.
So they're reaching out to past staff members to see if they're coming back to work this upcoming year.
We'll need twice as many staff as we normally do in order to keep those ratios small and keep our groups smaller.
And with universities in Abilene starting in 3 weeks.
Our pre-K class, we could have up to 22, we can have 10.
Very strict guidelines about a 1 to 10 ratio as far as staff to children.
They say it's usually in August that they become fully staffed.
Right now we're putting everyone on a waiting list.
Normally they have anywhere between 560 to 600 children to take care of, but due to lack of staff, they're expecting only about 300.
Here we probably have anywhere from 70 to 80 staff, and that's just kind of bare minimum. And so, this year going into, COVID, it's going to probably double. And so we're going to have probably at least 100 to 130 staff just to make sure that we can maintain the numbers that we normally have.
And they face another big obstacle.
They're not real sure if Governor Abbott will shut us down.
Alliance for Women and Children take care of kids in over 16 separate schools. Abilene with coverage you can count on, Monica Meek, KTAB News.
All right, and those daycares, they're reaching out to college students and other older adults to help fill those roles so they can get more children off the waiting list and into daycare. All right, now let's take a look at what we're working on for you for next week's show. All right, the race to November is in full swing. It's just about 3 months away, and one race Texans will face is the race for U.S. Senator. We're talking with incumbent John Cornyn and Democratic nominee MJ Hager. That's next week right here on Big Country Politics. And that does it for this week's edition of BCP. As always, for the latest political headlines, you can go to bigcountryhomepage.com. That's all for now. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll see you next week, same time, same place. Thank you so much for watching.